Hello, everyone. Welcome back. This is the Film Critics Guild weekly reviews discussion. I'm Obrod Das, the senior manager at the Film Critics Guild. The Guild, as you know, it's a non-profit and the only registered body of film critics in India. And we are currently have 50 members from all across India. Today we have two members from the Film Critics Guild, Anmol Jamwal from Tried and Refused Productions. He has a YouTube channel. He's based out of New Delhi. And we have Sachin Chatte from Goa. He writes for the Navhind Times and also works for different film festivals as a curator. So over to both of you.
Sachin
Thank
sir, I thought, why don't you start first? I think we've seen two films that either of us haven't seen, so I think
yeah.
it'll be a good start. Why don't you start with Madgaon Express if you can?
Yeah, sure. I mean, Madgaon Express, I was looking forward to it because it has Madgaon and Goa. And Kunal Khemu, whom we all love very much because of his comic timing and he's making his directorial debut. But I must say, I was rather disappointed with the film because it was slightly very juvenile kind of a humor. I mean, three friends who are desperate to go to Goa, they're best friends, but yet one of them who is not rich pretends to be very rich. And one of those, I mean, if I give you four or five keywords, you can connect the dots:
Mm-hmm.
friends, gangsters, drugs, stash of money, police, and that's about it. So you can just kind of and they are all in Goa. So you can connect the dots of friends coming to Goa. There are some drugs involved whom they accidentally find. There is a stash of money which they accidentally find. Then the gangsters are after them. And there are two very funny gangsters. One is played by Chaya Kadam. Actually, I wish there was a film on this lady gangsters. They wear
Oh
those,
wow.
Ray-Ban glasses and they wear the Nawari saris and very stylish, hip-looking women. And Chaya Kadam plays the dawn of that gang. Uh, so I wish she's called Kanchan Komdi.
Okay.
I hope I got that name right, Kanchan Komdi. I'll have to refer to the review again. So, that was fun, but just the humor of it. I mean, you found a bag with money and a key in it of a hotel room. Now, why you've got the money? Why would you go and stay in that hotel room so that then something can happen? I mean, you've got the money, just get away with it. It's just that kind of humor which left me very very cold. Although I'm sure a lot of people who love that kind of there is the odd funny line in the film which was
Yeah.
enjoyable, which you would expect in a Kunal Khemu film where these the gangsters chelas, they say
Uh-huh.
आंख लग गई थी मेरी.
Yeah.
So it says, साले मैं यहाँ गैंग चला रहा हूँ, कोई गवर्नमेंट ऑफिस नहीं, तुम्हारी आंख कैसे लग गई?
Okay.
So that kind of thing. There was some nice humor, but I thought the basic premises itself was very very weak. But it's just those few humor situations which did. But overall, I was rather disappointed with Madgaon Express.
Sir, is it that there is a certain like conviction with the absurdity of comedy was something that you just couldn't get transported to?
Uh, it's just again, as I said, the basic premise. I love silly humor. I mean, there's no
Yeah.
two ways about it. Tiranga is one of my favorite films. I'm talking about Tiranga with Rajkumar
Yeah.
and Nana Patekar, which is
Yeah.
so silly with a villain named Pralaynath Genda Swami, and dialogues also I know by heart. So I get it. I love that kind of humor. But this was like neither here nor there kind of thing. It was in nowhere. I mean, I think the three main characters were not at all convincing. कि,
Okay.
क्या कर रहे हैं और क्यों कर रहे हैं.
Mm-hmm.
And somehow I couldn't even suspend my disbelief to kind of get into it. See, चलो जो भी कर रहे हैं मान लेते हैं ये ऐसा कर रहे हैं, and from
Yeah.
there it is flowing. It just didn't work for me at all.
So, on the contrary, say, for example, these movies like Delhi Belly or Go Go are gone, were you more invested in those stories
Definitely,
versus?
I thought,
Yeah.
yeah, exactly. These two are classic examples. This also follows the same template, but I don't know whether it is my age or the time, or we've seen too many films like these that लगता है यार,
Yeah.
tell us, show us something different. The two films that you mentioned, I thoroughly enjoyed them. It's
Mm-hmm.
Goa Gone, Delhi Valley. But ये थोड़ा सा मुझे लगा कि थोड़ा outdated type का लग रहा था ये. Even the humor, the comedy, the situations, and all that. Again there is Noora Fatehi who plays a girl, and you never know which side she is on. Again
Yeah.
that all the characters were so very typical and stereotyped that you could see it
Mm-hmm.
coming from a mile. Ki, who is going which side. And there's Upendra Limay also who
Yeah.
plays another Don. And I mean, of course, the acting is fantastic, so that kind of kept the film going. But otherwise, as a premise and as the humor also, as I said, there was the odd funny line.
Yeah.
But apart from that, not a lot was happening, but I'm sure it'll find some takers, but not me.
Sir, but just the last question that I had regarding the same is, you being from Goa, does it get slightly exhausting when you see the premise of three friends and their ultimate goal being to come to that state and party, and then it's a comedy of errors after that?
This is an interesting thing because a lot has been said about how Goa is portrayed in cinema, and I have a slightly different take. It
Mm-hmm.
is not as bad as people make it out to be. Goa is
Mm-hmm.
always shown as this drugs, party, beaches kind of thing, which of course a lot of films have. This one definitely does because the three main characters, they make it amply clear right
Mm-hmm.
from the beginning that they're coming to Goa for beaches, parties, and bikinis and babes
Yeah.
and all that. But again, as I said, it was not so much of the Goa factor itself. वो थोड़ा ठीक था, that's okay.
Mm-hmm.
But it's just otherwise the premise, it was the characters rather, I would say. They were not at all convincing. I mean, to me at least. I mean, Pratik
Got it.
Gandhi also, they are all fantastic actors. But just why would you do such a thing? I mean, एक बार हो गया, दो बार हो गया, तीन बार हो गया. वो बार बार आप क्यों ऐसा बेवकूफ जैसे हरकतें करोगे?
Yeah. No, no,
So
makes sense.
that
Makes
was the thing.
sense. Mhm.
So what about the film that you saw?
Yes, sir. So, sir, I saw A Watan Mere Watan, and sir, at one point of time, when this movie started, and I already started feeling disconnected from almost a sense of boredom. I really felt like the screenplay was extremely dull.
Yeah,
I started questioning myself on whether this is only a result of the saturation of movies we as critics watch.
yeah,
But, sir, I genuinely was almost finding merits for the film, and almost finding a needle in the haystack. Like, it was so tough for me to find something that I could really rave about. The
yeah.
one thing that I do believe, sir, is that it's admirable that Usha Mehta's story comes in the commercial lens. So
Correct.
it allowed for me also, who didn't have any idea who she was and her contribution after the Quit India movement, it allowed me to really explore her story. And what I realized, sir, while I was exploring her story in real, was that the movie barely scratched the surface on her contribution. It almost reduced her contribution to the Congress radio, and it didn't give me an insight into her personality. It more laid focus on what she did after 1942. And I must say, sir, that other than Sparsh Srivastav, who plays Fahad, he is one of Usha Mehta's comrades, or like a friend who helps her out in several instances during the film. uh, I could not really see amazing performances extracted from the ensemble cast. Now, I
Yeah.
don't know, it almost seemed like a combination of both dull writing and that actors couldn't really extract something magical out of the source material, versus it just being bad performances. I felt like, sir, when you look at these films, especially period epics, my biggest gripe is when I see landscape shots that clearly look like they've been shot in Bandra
Yeah,
or
yeah.
in sets created. And several of these instances, which should inculcate a sense of pride within me or nationalism, I just got so distracted of the one act play like visual appeal of the film. It slightly had a odd, hazy touch to its cinematography. It never really transported me to that time. And I must say, sir, the British portrayals are gimmicky and hilarious. You've got a villain from the crime branch wearing a leather overcoat and boots in Bombay, and
Good
you're
Lord.
wondering how is he even, so effortlessly just going by his life and not sweating like a pig. I must say that I tried really hard, sir, to even slightly invest in Sarah's attempt at
Yeah. How is
uh,
she overall? I mean, is the
so
performance?
she was out of her depth 100%, sir. And I don't want to mince my words. And it's like me watching back to back performances. Like I saw Murder Mubarak the week before, and
Oh,
now it's this movie. And I just could see a lack of ability and range so apparent in a lot of the scenes.
mhm.
Sir, period epic, which should be inspirational and should have a sense of pride within me that this is a story of an unsung hero coming to life. I was disappointed more, even like in Imran Hashmi as Manohar Singh Lohiya and his speeches and his gusto for, this unified movement. It didn't produce anything within me. And I was left really disappointed, sir. I
It,
wonder whether a different casting would have had different results, but the material itself also, sir, is not that
yeah.
inspiring. Yeah.
Is it also one of those films, which is overtly melodramatic? I mean, they'll take a simple scene and make it so melodramatic or sometimes dramatic, which is
So,
completely unnecessary.
yeah, so but I would have loved for some drama actually. I would have loved to feel something. That was my biggest gripe, sir. There wasn't an emotional resonance that I felt, a sense of empathy or even sadness at loss. So when a movie of rebellion against tyranny is not producing that from me, then it has to be a combination of a lot of things not going right.
Yeah, yeah.
So it was definitely, sir, an underwhelming experience, I must say.
I think that's 2 in 2 weeks. I mean, last week we had Murder Mubarak, which
My
Mubarak to everybody who saw it.
khichdi, sir.
Or
That's
that
one
too.
word that I can describe it as.
Yeah, yeah. And this week, well, I skipped it, I guess,
Okay.
sensibly. So,
Yeah.
the Watan, Mere Watan,
Yeah. So, sir,
which
let's
now,
see. Let's get to the one movie we saw to both of us have seen. So, yeah,
yeah,
let's discuss, sir.
again, that's another biopic, and I think much like Savarkar's character, it will be it's not fair to dismiss this film of completely one way or the other, because I think there were some merits in the film. I think to start with, the biggest merit is Savarkar, in my opinion, is one of those figures on which everybody has an opinion, either for him or against him. But even those who are for him or against him know very little about him.
Yes, sir.
If you ask them very basic questions about Savarkar, like, tell me five things about Savarkar, or three things about Savarkar, nobody tells. But everybody has an opinion about Savarkar, whether that he was a great freedom fighter or whether he was a divisive figure, either one way or the other. But nobody really knows anything about him. So I think the biggest plus for me from this film is, whether in a nice way or not so nice way. Of course, the biggest problem with the film is that it is 3 hours long,
Yes, sir.
and
100%.
yeah, it's 3 hours is way too long. But on the positive side, I would say that at least we learned. I mean, now at least somebody can talk about Savarkar, at least, say five things about Savarkar, or debate or have a discussion on Savarkar. But having said that, they glorified Savarkar, which doesn't mean that they had to put down the other characters, like the way they showed
100%.
they showed Mahatma Gandhi, like, almost like a very silly kind of a
Silly.
person,
Yes, sir. Almost
which
naive, sir. Yeah.
naive, yeah, and almost like I mean, a not so nice person also, or somebody who was responsible for for the delay that happened in India's independence, or the approach was not right. Ab ho gaya so ho gaya, but you can't really put down Mahatma Gandhi, something like that. You want to
So
glorify Savarkar, that is perfectly fine. You're making a film on Savarkar, you have every right to do that. But that doesn't mean you put down other people.
So, exactly is what I felt was when the movie started, I was giving it credit for the ideological debate they first had at India House. So I was like, okay, wow, this is going to be not a hero versus villain narrative in their portrayals, but
Yeah,
almost a debate about what they feel about the same goal, which is India's freedom. But,
freedom. Yeah,
sir, for me, the visual of Madan Lal Dhingra
yeah,
almost about to hang himself, and it immediately being Gandhi's message of non-violence,
non-violent. Yeah,
it almost seemed like an attack on the person versus a debate. It almost seemed like they wanted to mock. When you're showcasing a freedom fighter is about to hang himself, an immediate cutaway to Mahatma Gandhi's with a smile on his face message to the world.
yeah,
It in direct contrast almost wanted to present this as the problem,
yeah,
which I felt like was slightly problematic. This almost became wildly apparent when it comes closer to the independence, where Nehru and Gandhi are seen patting Mountbatten's back and they're
yeah,
smiling and smoking a
yeah,
cigarette together.
yeah.
I was like, I get you're making your point, but this is becoming wildly black and white, which is not fair.
And it was not required at all, because you're making a
Yeah.
film about Savarkar. And to be fair, if anybody who's read a little bit of Savarkar, you know that man had a lot of qualities. I mean, whatever negative things people may say, but he was a poet. He wrote songs. Some of the very popular Marathi songs are written by him. He wrote books. His first book at the 1857 was at the age of 25.
Wow.
He
Yeah.
spent 10 years in prison from 1911 to 1921, as the film tells us. And of all the leaders that we know in the freedom struggle, I don't think anybody spent 10 years together in prison. So,
Yeah.
there was a lot happening in his life, which should have been the highlight. rather than focusing on again, Gandhiji's character also, they've shown very interesting that he respects Savarkar.
Yeah.
Savarkar doesn't exactly have a lot of respect for him, but he doesn't disrespect Gandhi either. But the film does disrespect Mahatma Gandhi.
Yeah.
There is
Sir,
a very
because
interesting triangle there.
yeah, there is almost a difference between the portrayal versus what Randeep Hooda's character Savarkar is saying. Almost he's saying that I don't hate Gandhi, I hate non-violence.
Non-violence, exactly.
Whereas the expressions on when he is told that Gandhi has become the leader of the country, he's like, "Itna bada aadmi ban gaya wo."
Yeah.
It's
Mocking him.
almost, yeah. So I must say, sir, I from the years I've seen Randeep Hooda just immerse himself in roles, this is again a man who just will leave no stone unturned, physical or
Yeah,
getting into the psyche space of a character. This guy really gives it his all. So I must say, I commended him of just the torture, which was, I think, good 45 minutes of the film of Kala Pani,
yeah,
where I
yeah,
was like, wow, this man is really giving blood, sweat, and tears to this role.
yeah.
Um,
Even
and I'm,
in the
yeah,
Kalapani scenes, I mean, that's also much more nuanced if you see in real life. They've just shown those, Muslims they're torturing these
yeah,
Hindus.
yeah,
But it was actually the Brits who pitted one against the other there. I mean, there was a reason why those people were kept there to look after these prisoners here.
yeah.
So the film doesn't really get into all that. It just makes it a slightly black and white as to, how he was punished or tortured by these, again, that was very black and white there, which,
100%, sir. Yeah. This was
yeah,
one of my criticisms, sir, because the character who is considered to be the man who with the baton who's constantly torturing
yeah,
them is so commercial masala villain, the
exactly.
portrayal, where it was his stance against forced conversion is merited, but the way in which they've presented it is very black and white.
Is very
Yes.
black and white. Like that.
Yes.
So yeah, actually, the Brits put a lot of criminals there as these officers, not officers exactly, but these jail guards, and even a lot of Pathans were sent there. So there was much more background to who was there and why they were there and what they did and why they did it. But here, as we said, in the film, it's just totally black and white that they are, just beating them up because of their community. So
Yeah.
that didn't make sense. I mean, this is a great opportunity to actually make a good case for your main protagonist.
Yeah. Yeah.
But those certain points were wasted. But again,
Yeah.
as I said, at the end of it, at least we learned something which,
Yeah.
for example, the Patit Pawan Mandir in Ratnagiri, which still exists today. Um, so one of the common things between Savarkar and Ambedkar were they were both very strongly anti-caste.
Yeah.
And as the film also shows that he fed all these people who were coming to the house, all the Dalits also, and he built the temple for the Dalits so that they could enter there. Now, this is one thing which a lot of people, whether you're pro or anti Savarkar, they don't know about it. So,
And sir, I sir remember revisiting the 2001 Hindi film, and the same debate exists that they kept with Gandhi and him, which is about the
yeah,
caste system and forced conversion. So
yeah,
I would have loved for these ideological debates to be more of the highlight rather than uh, presenting
just a black and
Savarkar
white. Yeah,
as a perfect human, which he himself says that मैंने भी बहुत ज़्यादा गलतियां की हैं.
correct,
It
correct.
almost felt like Randeep didn't want to show those gray shades,
Yeah,
and it slightly got lost in his own frenzy and love for him.
yeah. But he
Yeah.
did a terrific job. I mean, I
He
still
was
say what
amazing, sir,
he
I
was so
must
good.
say.
I
Yeah.
mean, whether it's his physical transformation in Andamans where all his ribs and all are showing, or even those fiery speeches which he gives, it looked like, एकदम दिल से निकल रहा था वो.
I've always been convinced of his portrayal, sir. I must say that he's a dime a dozen when the focus should be the craft and acting. I must say
Yeah.
that that is his focus versus other things that we see across in the
Yeah.
Hindi
I
film
mean, he's
industry.
Randeep, the actor, was much better than Randeep, the director.
Oh, yes, sir. So, there is merit to the argument, sir, that it would have probably been a compelling series if you really wanted to give it
Yeah,
justice.
yeah.
Yes.
Because
But
it's still 3 hours long. I mean, and still, I'm sure there are lots of episodes in his life which were kind of, I mean, the whole trial also could have been a little longer, when
yeah,
he was tried for the assassination. So that they kind of quickly fast forwarded because it was almost already 3 hours by the time that
yeah,
moment came.
100%, sir. Yeah. So those were our assessments. I think, Obro, these were the three films we've discussed, and I hope you guys also do join in next weekend. I'm sure the FCG is going to be discussing The Crew and Prithvi Raj's The Goat Life. So it's
Yeah.
exciting two films to look forward to.
And do share your thoughts about the films that you have seen this week, whether you all agree with Watan. I think mostly everybody will agree with your assessment of Watan. Everybody may not agree with the assessment of Madgaon Express, and I think a lot of people will agree with the pros and cons of Savarkar film.
Yeah, 100%. Please do write down your comments. We will be really eager to reply to them and like see what the discourse is about. Thank you. Thank you, Sachin sir.
Thank you very much, Anmol. Thank you.
And that's it for this week. Thank you so much for joining us. Please do stay tuned. We are going to be back next week with more movie reviews.